Coming up in My Fellow Americans. Captain Barry ordered the sounding of the alert and with a calm but commanding voice made the announcement that no ballistic submariner ever wanted to hear. Action stations, action stations, action stations, missile for strategic launch, missile for strategic launch. Able rating Simmons froze and curled up into a fetal position on his bunk. Missile for strategic launch. A voice seemed to come from everywhere, the connection amplified for the benefit of the others in the room. Mr. President, Mr. Sokolov is on the line. President Cussor lifted the receiver and placed it to his ear. Hello? A conversation was just finishing.
Мы выясним, где приземлилась ракета, и были ли там люди в то время. Району может быть нанесен материальный ущерб.
Codebreaker interpreter leaned in and whispered in hushed tones. He's asking for details of any inhabited towns in the area, presumably where the missile landed, sir. His female colleague nodded nervously in agreement.
Ah, Mr. President, how are you today?
Sokolov's voice sounded smooth, businesslike. As I have always said, where there is a will, there is a way. President Cussor looked around the faces of his audience in silence. He could never have predicted the reaction he now received. Every journalist stopped writing. Every hardened, cynical newshound who had grown fat on the nourishment of bad news, corruption and insincerity paused and blinked in shock at this bright light of unexpected forthrightness. With every pad and recorder discarded, each person in the room stood and applauded, some with tears in their eyes. It felt as though America was back, proud, just, courageous, and it felt good. Jay Merlind left the platform wearing a tight smile for the cameras, the vibrating cell phone in his pocket getting hot with the constant ringing. It was time to tighten the screws.
The only hold they have over us is our lives. There is nowhere we can go, nothing we can do. Our protection is the security services, and it's the very protection itself that will allow us to be slaughtered. There must be another way, Will. Think of something. There just isn't another way. Look, I'll be blunt. We will be tracked down, security will evaporate, and we will be tortured and butchered in front of each other by two psychos. Look what happened to Popper and Grammer.
Karen welled up, her eyes in full flow.
Well, do something, Will. Speak to them. Tell them you give up. Tell them you'd do anything they ask, Will. Our lives are worth more than that.
But this was something that Will neither could bring himself to do, nor would make any difference if he could. Will studied the statuette more closely. He noticed that the miniature William Shakespeare was pointing towards some words inscribed on the scroll in tiny precision-cut letters. There is no darkness but ignorance. It seemed so apt that the quotation from the Shakespeare play Twelfth Night should sum up Will's worldview in one sentence. In just 6 words, the bard had defined the source of the world's wickedness. Ignorance. Alarmed and frightened passengers avoided the commotion and tried to get away as best they could. Someone blurted out something about a terrorist with a gun. They could see a young woman in hysterics sprawled on the floor with a man standing over her. He was angry and swearing. Then his voice started to rise to a shout. Something about the woman taking the bullet. Then she was begging for her life as every passenger, commuter and tourist ran for theirs.
Please, don't. Please, I don't want to die. Please.
Take it, bitch,
shouted the man, arm outstretched as steady as a rock. With her eyes closed tight, Rose sobbed. You can purchase all 38 chapters of this audiobook on Audible, Amazon and iTunes. Printed and Kindle versions also available. Don't forget to like and leave your thoughts in the message box below, because the author would love to know your opinion.